Welcome to episode 2 of the Champs and Chums podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Ashton.
Father and son with fun talk on sports, life, and friendship. Coming up on episode 2, will the Toronto Raptors repeat as NBA champions? Father and son take the rock and talk about their chances. Will the Toronto Maple Leafs make it past the first round of the NHL Playoffs? We'll go top cheese, roof daddy with our fearless predictions. How can the Toronto BlueJays improve on the field and off the field in 2020? We'll swing for the fences. And we round home on episode 2 with special segments. All Pro Go, a Did You Know Sports Spotlight, and Champs and Chums, personal salutes to our stars on and off the field. That's coming up on episode 2 of the Champs and Chums podcast. Okay, welcome back to episode 2 of the Champs and Chums podcast. Ashton, we are now in the sweet spot of our talk. We're going to talk about sports. And you know the first topic we're going to talk about?
The Toronto Raptors.
You got it, the Toronto Raptors. Now let's set this up. The question that we had is, will the Toronto Raptors repeat as NBA champions? You know, June 13th, 2019 will go down as the most celebrated moment in Canadian sports history. You know why?
Because that was a buzzer beater game.
It actually wasn't the buzzer beater game. It was in fact it was the last game the Raptors played, beat the Warriors.
Oh yeah, and they won the finals.
That's right. The first ever Canadian team to win an NBA championship. But that was June, and lots has changed since then. Now, do you think the Raptors are going to repeat as NBA champions? And tell us why.
Well, because they lost some good players, but I still think they're gonna do good. And it's Nick Nurse, second year of head coach.
Yeah, Nick Nurse in his sophomore year as head coach, and I mean, I guess one of the best players that they lost was the guy that probably everybody jumped on his shoulders. Was Kawhi
Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard, the Claw. I mean, how do you feel about losing him? He's going to the Clippers, but how do you think that's going to affect the Raptors?
Well, he used to be the best player on the team, so I don't know. Because if he kind of stayed one more year on the Raptors, and then he kind of traded.
Yeah, that's true. We only had one great year at Kawhi, and there was so much talk about, as the listeners at home knows, about load management. They were really careful about, how many games he played so he could be at his maximum performance for the playoffs. And boy, oh boy, did him and the rest of the team do it. But I mean, when you think about it, Ashton, and we know this in life and being part of a team, it's not one person that makes up a team. It's two people. It's kind of like me and you. We've decided to do this podcast together as father and son, so we both have to contribute to its success. I mean, what other players on the Raptors do you feel can contribute to the success for the season?
Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Van Vliet.
This guy knows his basketball. You want to name some others? Kyle Lowry, yeah.
Serge Ibaka, actually.
Serge Ibaka, yeah. Serge Ibaka. He had 27 minutes a game he played for the Raptors. He averaged of 15 points. Yeah, who else do you think is going to come up big this year?
You know who I think?
Who's that?
Wait, who was he again? It was...
You remember the guy? Norman Powell?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Stormin' Norman Powell. Yeah, he came off the bench last year, played 60 games for the Toronto Raptors and averaged 8.6 points. You're right. Maybe there's more room for him. Maybe there's more room for OG Anunoby. And what about the man that we saw play live, Chris Boucher? Does he think he has a chance to do well?
Yep.
Excellent. Why do you think he has a chance to do well?
Because I saw him play a game in the Raptors 905, and he was really, really good.
Oh, yeah. How many dunks did that guy... In fact, the Power Girls behind the glass, they came to that game. We had great seats for that game. We saw Chris Boucher take it to the bucket so many times. He was outstanding in that game. Amazing. So the Raptors, I mean, they won 58 games. They went 58-24, second in the NBA Eastern Conference. How many wins do you think they're going to get this year, and why?
I think they're going to get probably about 3 or 2 wins.
3 or 2 wins. I don't know if that'll make an NBA title for next year, but you know what? It was a fun chat to talk about that. So we'll talk about the Raptors a little bit more on the Champs and Chums podcast at a later episode. But Ashton, let's turn from the basketball over to the hockey puck. Here we are. It's October. The Toronto Maple Leafs opened up their 118th season. Can you believe it? 118 years the Leafs have been around. I was so fortunate to be part of 4 years and part of my career working with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they debuted this week. They played the Ottawa Senators. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Did you get fired from your job?
No, Ashton. This is what happens on live podcasts here, ladies and gentlemen. Good question by son. But no, actually, Dad had quite a successful time at the Toronto Maple Leafs for 4 years. And, I actually moved on to a job in the automotive business. I worked with Bridgestone Firestone Canada. And, in fact, some of my pals, some of my chums, from back in the day, I mean, we're going back like, what is this now, 24 years ago or so, 23 years ago. They're still chums to this day. So shout out to Parksy and Lash and all the others that I had such the pleasure to continue to keep in touch with. But that's a great question. So let's talk and move to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs finished with a record of 46 28-8. They had 100 points. But as we know, in the regular season, doesn't matter. They've had Mike Babcock as coach. I think he's entering his 4th season with the club. And can they get past Ashton into the second round of the playoffs, and why?
I think they can. And why? Because they've been doing better.
They've been doing much better. And in fact, quite the news of the new captain. You want to talk a little bit about the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the new one?
The new captain is John Tavares.
Johnny T, Johnny Toronto. Yeah, I mean, what kind of a player do you think he is?
A really good player.
Oh, well, you know what? He's a great player because you know what? He prepares for excellence. He does it the right way, as Babcock likes to talk about, and he's a true professional. Win, lose, or draw, as captain, as a leader, he's always there. He's always available. Such an important life points to have, right? Go ahead, Ashton. He raised his hand for those of the ones that didn't see it because you're only hearing us on the Champs and Chums podcast. But go ahead, Ashton.
So, I saw something really cool. That when you went on the Raptors, it said Kawhi was right here, and John Tavares is right there in second.
Yeah, John Tavares, 47 goals. I've got the statistics up in front of me here. 47 goal year, first year with the Leafs. Now the captain. I guess the big question is how they can make it past into the second round. They've always had tough games and playoff series against Boston. Tampa Bay's in their division. How are they going to do this?
Well, they just got to play harder and work harder.
Playing hard, working hard, obviously great traits as well too. And of course, the goaltender. Who's the big goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Frederik Andersen.
Freddie Andersen. What a guy that is. And looking forward to having the Leafs. We'll have some more Leaf talk as we move on in the Champs and Chums podcast. So let's go to part 3 now, Ashton. The question is, how can the Toronto Blue Jays improve on the field and off the field next season? So they had a tough year. They finished the season with 67 wins, 67-95, 4th place in the American League East. Not enough, certainly, to make it into the postseason. But you went to some games. Why don't you tell the listeners at home some of the Blue Jay games you went to?
Excuse me. I went to this game where someone they had someone so whoever made a home run, whoever team made the whole home run, they won. And so Danny Jansen, he hit a home run and he won the game.
That was a great game. Danny Jansen, he went yard. I think it was the bottom of the ninth. It was a walk-off home run. So they're going to need more of that. I mean, I think when you think about, are they going to have success on the field? I think they've got a good crop of young rookie players. I mean, tell the listeners at home some of the players that they have. Tell them some of the players they have. You can tell them.
Vladdy Guerrero.
Yeah. Bo Bichette.
Yeah.
You got Cavan Biggio. You mentioned Danny Jansen as well too.
Wait, who's Bo? Oh.
Yeah, that's Cavan Biggio as well too. So we've got lots of promise, of course, but I think they need help with their pitching. I think that's really where they're going to need help. What do you think? What do you think about the pitching?
They should pitch harder.
Yeah, they can throw harder for sure, but when you think about it, they lost your guy, Marcus Stroman. He went to the New York Mets. And they've got some players, some pitchers to work around, right? They picked up some pitchers in that deal, and let's hope that there's good promise. Now, what do you think they're gonna have to do to actually bring some more fans to the game? You went to 3 games this year yourself. What was exciting about it? What do you want to see more of?
More winning.
Well, winning helps. There's no doubt about it. Winning's going to deliver fans to come to the seats. But what about, is there certain activities, things that you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Like what, Ashton?
When I went to a game, it was a Junior Jays game, so I could run on the bases, but I didn't have time.
That's a really good point, though. Junior Jays, maybe they need to do more things like that, right? So running around the bases, maybe, different activities on the concourse level, just to bring more families out there too, right? What about the prices for food and drinks over there?
They're really expensive.
It can be, right? I mean, I know they had a few, dollar dog nights and such. Maybe they need to consider doing more of that. What about even the timing of the games? We went to a 4 o'clock game. Does that work better?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Now, what else do you want to talk about for the Leafs, Raptors, and Blue Jays for this episode 2 of Champs and Chums?
Work harder, play harder, success.
Wow, he's talking like an athlete after the game. Work harder, play harder, and success. Well, that's great. We're going to close this episode, but we've got our other episodes that are coming up a bit on episode 2 of the Champs and Chums podcast. Okay, welcome back to Champs and Chums. It is time to close the show, and we will close the show with our first ever, and this is the signature segment, Ashton, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sure is. This is our Champs and Chums segment, and again, it's our personal salutes to stars on the field and off the field. So Ashton is going to share his champ, and then you're going to share your chum. So let's start off, listeners, to listen to Ashton's champ. Your champ is
Kawhi, Anthony Leonard. Kawhi was born on June 29th, 1991. He was an American professional basketball player for the Los Angeles Clippers of the NBA. He played 2 seasons of college basketball for the San Diego State
the Aztecs. You got it.
Aztecs, and was named second-team All-American. Kawhi was selected by the Indiana Pacers with the 15th overall pick in the 2011 NBA draft, before being traded to the San Antonio Spurs on draft night. With the Spurs, Leonard won a NBA championship an NBA championship in 2014.
And he was named Finals MVP then too. Wow. Amazing that Kawhi.
After 7 seasons with the Spurs, Leonard was traded to the Toronto Raptors in 2018. In 2019, he led the Raptors to their first NBA championship in franchise history, and he won his second Finals MVP award. Leonard is a 3 All-Star. Nicknamed the Claw or Claw for his ball
hawking skills. Yeah, he was all over the floor. Oh yeah.
Skills. He had earned 5 All-Defensive Team selections and won the NBA Defensive Player of the Year award in 2015 and 2016.
Your chum, Kawhi Leonard. Now remember, Kawhi though had great people around him.
Champ.
Sure, Champ. I'm sorry about that. Thanks for the correction, Ashton. This is the first one we've done anyways. But yes, Champ, Kawhi Leonard. He also had a good people around him too, right? He had like who?
Uncle Dennis.
Uncle Dennis. But you know what? We got the best Uncle Dennis behind the glass there, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. So Kawhi Leonard is Ashton's champ for this episode 2 of Champs and Chums, and now you're going to talk about your chum. Who is your chum, Ashton?
Sean John.
So tell us about Sean John.
So this was really, really cool. So I was born on the same day as him. I was born in the same hospital as him. And we
Brampton
met.
Civic Hospital, I might add too. You were on the same floor on the same day, maybe even the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, and the first time I ever met him was in the hospital.
Okay.
Well, you met his
I
parents.
can't verify that. I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting his parents in the hospital. I've had the pleasure of meeting his parents, Saji and Sneha. Before, obviously at school, and so you went to school with him for a little time too, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's great. So that's your chum, Sean John. Shout out to Sean John. Great name too, eh? Sean John. So Sean, if you're listening, and your parents, you are Ashton's chum of episode 2. So I guess now it's Dad's turn, eh?
Yep.
All right, so my champ, and I got to tell you, I got a personal story, but my champ, this is a week about captains, is Wendell Clark. Wendell Clark, number 17, played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, first overall in the 1985 draft. I have a story of Wendell Clark, Asha, but you have something you want to tell me before then? Okay.
I know my dad's chum.
Okay, I know, but let's talk about my champ first. So let me finish my story about Wendell Clark. First season with the Toronto Maple Leafs, it was sort of working part-time to start. I then had been given the great news that I'd become a full-time employee of the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team, working in the media and public relations, as a media and public relations coordinator. And I was bringing the game notes down, and as I told you, my idol growing up, because I just love the way that guy played, Wendell Clark. He played with confidence. He played with energy. He was tough, and he could score goals. He was really good. And so I had joined the team in a full-time capacity, and there I was walking into the dressing room, and there he was, Wendell Clark, taping his stick. As Ashton's showing me with his hand signs, he was taping a stick, and I said, I gotta say and introduce myself to him, because I'm now, at least as it relates to the support staff of the team, part of the team. So I went up to him, I said, Wendell, I just want to introduce myself. My name's Anthony Alfred. I just started with the Toronto Maple Leafs full-time. I'm looking forward to working with you. And he told me that it was great to meet me, and it was a game day and all, so I want to be pretty brief. But that's my champ for episode 2 of the Champs and Chums podcast, Wendell Clark. Go ahead. And And I also, well, you want to talk about my chum. So let's start with you. You unveil the chum then for me.
His chum is Grandma Anita.
That's right. My first ever chum, and a personal salute is to my mom. Grandma Anita, as you call her, but she's my mom. And I'll tell you why. You know, when I grew up, as some of you listeners may know, I lost my father at a young age, right? He was 9 years old. And
He was not 9
I was 9 years old. I was 9 years old when your grandpa Alan passed away, and my mom did everything for my sister. She was mom and dad. She took me out into the soccer fields to play games, took me out to my other sports that I had to play and practice. And so for that, Mom, I know you're listening. You are my chum of episode 2 on the Champs and Chum podcast for all the great things that you've done to help inspire me, to coach me, to teach me, and to discipline me too, but to inspire me to be the person I am today. So thank you, Mom. So that's the end of our show, episode 2. I'd like to thank again the wonderful people behind the glass who've provided the production for today's episode 2 podcast. That's the Power Girls, Ashley and Serena. Do you want to say thanks to Ashley and Serena?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. They're waving behind the glass there. And of course, we want to thank Uncle Dennis. So thank Uncle Dennis.
Thank you.
Uncle Dennis, thanks for all your great help. Want to thank the City of Brampton for providing us this wonderful podcast studio where we're able to actually broadcast from. And we want to thank you, the listeners. So we hopefully you'll subscribe to us. We're on Instagram, Ashton. What's the handle?
@Champs and Chums.
You got it, @Champs and Chums. So again, thanks for tuning in to episode 2. Cheers to champs, cheers to chums, and cheers to an all-star day. Thanks for listening.